The Conservative candidate is declared the winner of Poland's presidential runoff in a very close contest. I'm Tom McRae, this is Al Jazeera Live from Doha. Also coming up, forced to flee under fire. Israeli forces intensify attacks in parts of Gaza where Palestinians are taking shelter. Ukraine targets several Russian air bases hours before the two sides are set to meet to discuss a ceasefire. And working as temperatures soar to nearly 50 degrees Celsius, the heat wave threatening livelihoods in parts of Pakistan. Well, Conservative candidate Karol Nawrocki has won Poland's runoff election by a razor-slim majority. He won just over 50% of the vote, while his Liberal rival, Warsaw Mayor Rafał Trzaskowski, secured 49.11%. The result is a major blow for Poland's pro-European Union government. Israeli forces have intensified attacks on Palestinians in Gaza, many of them living in makeshift shelters. Some of the latest strikes hit tents housing displaced people in the south of the Strip. Artillery shelling killed at least 4 people in al-Mawasi in the southwest. The Israeli military designated the barren strip of land a safe zone early in the war, but has attacked it repeatedly. The health ministry says more than 50 Palestinians were killed across Gaza on Sunday. And in the north, Israeli warplanes have bombed and destroyed at least 70 residential buildings in just the past 2 days. Some of the attacks in Gaza City have wiped out entire families. Schools sheltering displaced Palestinians were also hit. Gaza City was once the commercial hub of the Strip. Now, entire neighbourhoods are left in ruins. On Sunday, Israeli forces opened fire on Palestinians waiting for food near a distribution site in Rafah, killing at least 31 people and injuring more than 100. A second attack happened at a separate aid hub. The distribution centres are operated by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, a non-profit organisation backed by Israel and the US. The UN Human Rights Office has accused Israel of violating international standards on aid distribution by militarising humanitarian assistance. It says the weaponisation of food constitutes a war crime. Wilson Dizard has more.
Hunger and fear. Palestinians in Gaza say going to new food distribution sites comes with the risk of death. Here, they wait at a community kitchen, seeking safety and a reprieve from hunger.
This is famine, parallel to the genocide war we are living. We are being starved to death by the Israeli military. This is not a fair fight anymore. Aid is used as a weapon to kill the population. We cannot feed our children. We stand in line for hours to get a handful of rice or a loaf of bread. We cannot approach the US aid distribution post. The Israeli drones open fire and drop bombs on us. It is a death trap.
The U.S. and Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation was meant to replace the long-established UN system for aid distribution. The new scheme has been widely criticized by NGOs and human rights groups for weaponizing aid.
Palestinians in Gaza are starving to death. There is nothing left for us here to eat. The US aid is a big lie. Border crossings are closed. We are besieged and reeling under ruthless bombardment. What is the world waiting for? If we are not killed, we would starve to death.
For the injured who escaped death in Sunday's massacre, recovery at hospital awaits. But hunger stalks them even there.
We're suffering greatly from a blood shortage. We frequently appeal to people to donate blood, but when the donors arrive, we find that most of these young men are suffering from anemia. It's due to the starvation war waged by the Israeli occupation against our Palestinian people and the malnutrition and immunodeficiency that most age groups in the Gaza Strip suffer from.
Negotiations on a ceasefire continue. But until the bombs stop and aid is allowed in freely and delivered safely and in sufficient amounts, widespread famine in Gaza continues to be a real threat. Wilson Dysard, Al Jazeera.
An act of terrorism. That's how US authorities are treating an attack at a rally to raise awareness about Israeli captives held in Gaza. It happened in the city of Boulder in Colorado. Witnesses say several people were set on fire at the gathering. Barbara Angopa has more.
Panic swept through a busy outdoor shopping area after a man threw petrol bombs at a small group. Witnesses say some people were set on fire. The victims had gathered to raise awareness about Israeli captives held in Gaza.
I'm able to confirm there are 6 victims, ages 67 to 88. All of them have been transported to local hospitals. This attack happened at a regularly scheduled weekly peaceful event. Witnesses are reporting that the subject used a makeshift flamethrower and threw an incendiary device into the crowd. The suspect was heard to yell "Free Palestine" during the attack. The subject has been identified as Mohammed Sabri Solomon, and he's 45 years old.
The FBI says it's investigating the attack as an act of terrorism, and lawyers are deciding on the charges.
He's making Molotov cocktails.
The U.S. Attorney and I just spoke on the phone again now, and in the coming days, decisions will be made about what charges to file and where. There's a couple different options, but what I would stress now, most importantly, is we are fully united, 100%, in making sure the charges we bring hold the attacker fully accountable.
The attack happened during heightened tension over anti-war rallies in support of Palestinians in Gaza on college campuses and beyond. The Trump administration says the protests are anti-Semitic and have contributed to an increase in hate crime. Police in Boulder, Colorado say they're confident the suspect acted alone. Barbara Angopa, Al Jazeera.
Attacks between Russia and Ukraine have increased in intensity ahead of the latest talks on ending the more than 3-year-long war. Ukrainian drones targeted air bases deep inside Russia in a large-scale operation on Sunday. The Russian Defense Ministry said planes caught fire at 2 military sites. Representatives from the 2 countries are due to meet in Turkey on Monday for a second round of ceasefire talks. Ukraine's simultaneous drone strikes hit multiple Russian military bases, some far from the front lines. One was in Murmansk in the extreme northwest, 1,800 kilometres from the border with Ukraine. Another was in the Siberian region of Irkutsk, more than 4,300 kilometres from the border. And just hours earlier, 2 bridges collapsed in Russian regions near Ukraine. At least 7 people were killed and dozens injured when a passenger train derailed under one of the bridges in Bryansk. A Russian senator has blamed Ukraine for both incidents. We have correspondents covering the significance of these attacks. In a moment, we'll hear from John Hendren in Kyiv. But first, Dorsa Jabari is in Moscow.
This is the first time that Russian military forces have seen a simultaneous large-scale attack on Russian territory being launched from inside Russia on military air bases. Of course, these are very strategic air bases that are home to Russia's long-range airplanes that have been carrying out strikes across Ukraine. The Russian Defense Ministry saying that there have been no injuries reported, no casualties, either military or civilian, and a number of people, what they call terrorists, have already been detained for their role in this attack. There was also, prior to this attack that took place on Sunday overnight, 2 bridges collapsed, one in the Bryansk region and one in the Kursk region. The one in Bryansk collapsed as a passenger train was traveling beneath it. And during this incident, there was at least 7 people that were killed and 80 other people injured. Half of them have been hospitalized here in Moscow. They were transported here early on Sunday morning. The incident in the Kursk region, there was a cargo train that was traveling on this bridge when there was an explosion and there were minor injuries reported. This all, of course, comes at a critical time in this conflict. The Russian negotiating team has landed in Istanbul, where they're due to sit down with the Ukrainians on Monday to discuss a possible ceasefire deal that would see an end to this conflict. But the general mood now here is that this latest, all these attacks that Ukraine has carried out is going to have to be met with a very harsh response from the Russian side. Dorsa Jabari, Al Jazeera, Moscow.
You can hear the air raid warning here in Kyiv. That comes after an operation that marks one of the biggest days in the war in Ukraine. Operation Web was bold, dangerous, and long planned. According to President Volodymyr Zelensky, it was planned a year and a half ago. The SBU, the Ukrainian Security Services, confirms that they used trucks carrying drones to strike 4 different air bases as far as 4,000 kilometers inside of Russian territory. Those drones destroyed 40 planes and 1/3 of Russia's strategic aviation fleet. Those are the ones that carry cruise missiles, and that's important because those cruise missiles are what Russia uses often within a sea of drones to strike cities like Kyiv and set off air raid warnings like that one. A mission like this was probably authorized by Volodymyr Zelensky himself. This also comes on the eve of peace talks in Istanbul between Ukraine and Russia. The Ukrainian side will be led by the Minister of Defense, Rostam Umerov, and he will come with specific demands for a ceasefire, for a new prisoner exchange, and